Welcome back. Today we are going to talk about parts of an expression. So you're going to be able to identify basic vocabulary used in algebra. We're focusing on expressions. So let's start off with what a variable is. A variable is a letter or symbol used to represent an unknown number or variable. So an example is any letter from the alphabet. So there's 26 letters to choose from, any letter you want from the alphabet. Most of the time, I'm going to choose the letter X. It's just what I've been doing. So over here, here's an example 3x. So that X represents your variable. From there, we have a term. So a term is an expression made from numbers and or variables that use multiplication or division. Just like this, 3x is a term. Terms are separated by addition or subtraction signs. Could have 4x minus 1. Okay, so then I have two terms in there because I have a subtraction sign. If a term has a variable, it is known as a variable term. So back to this 3x, x is a variable, so that would be a variable term. If a term does not have a variable, it is known as a constant term. So that just means it's a number, 7, 10, negative 12. That would be a constant term. And so if we look at just a term, there's different parts of it. First part is a coefficient, and that's a number used to multiply the variable. Then you have the base, which is the number that gets multiplied when using an exponent. And finally, the last part of a term is the exponent, and that's the number of times something is multiplied by itself. So let's look at this example, 6x to the fourth. So this is saying 6 times x raised to the fourth power. So this 6 is the coefficient. It's the number that's being multiplied by the variable. Your variable, remember, is an unknown value. In this case, it's represented by the letter x. So that x represents our base. And then this 4, notice that it's a little bit higher and it's printed a little smaller than the other two things. That's your exponent. Okay? And that's saying a number multiplied by itself that many times. So down in example 1, it says we're going to identify the coefficient, the base, and the exponent of the term. Now I'm abbreviating C for coefficient, B for base, E for exponent. So if we just look at the first one, I have 12r to the 7th. So 12 is my coefficient. Really, this should say r, but I accidentally wrote the letter x. That's okay. And then my exponent is going to be 7. So let's look at C and D. I've got different notes for C and D. So it says negative b to the 10th. So right here, I said what it's really saying. Negative b is really saying negative 1 times b raised to the 10th power. So that means my coefficient is negative 1, my base is b, and then my exponent is 10. Over here on letter D, it says 3x, but I have a note here. I circled that there's no power. So if there's no power, it's assumed that the power is 1. So my coefficient is 3, my base is x, and my exponent is 1. And then the last part, let's talk about an expression. An expression may contain numbers and or variables that are connected by different operations. So an expression is something that has no equal sign. So there is no equal sign in an expression. Very important to understand that. So example 3 says, I'm circling. I want you to circle any expressions below. So there's no equal sign. So I circled it. I see an equal sign. That's an equation. No equal sign. I circle it. It's got an equal sign, so that's an equation. And then no equal sign, so that's an expression. And so the big takeaways are talking about terms. Okay, so a term is an expression made up of numbers and variables. You can have something that's one term, something that's two terms, something that's three terms. So here's some examples where you have to create your own. So it says two terms and uses the variable j. So two terms, one term, and then there's an addition sign, there's a plus sign, and then there's a second term. So it uses the variable j, so I just have to have j in both terms. Three terms that each have different exponents. Okay, so there's one term, two terms, three terms. Those terms, once again, are separated by addition or subtraction. In this case, I chose addition. And then the last example says a term that has a coefficient of -6. So a term means one term. I've got one term, and my coefficient is -6. And then I've got some other variables with it. If you have questions, as always, make sure you reach out.